Hello, and welcome to By Any Means Necessary. My name is MC John Ribbs, and today I'm here to speak about the murder of another black man by a cop in America. A young man named Patrick Lyoya. That's spelt Lyoya. So young Patrick was driving his car in I believe it's in Michigan in America, and he got stopped by the police, which for black men, this is something that we face all the time. So he got stopped by the police, and he got out of his car, and the police officer immediately told him to get back in his car. The police officer immediately ramped up the encounter. He said to him, he was shouting at him, "Get back in the car! Get back in the car!" So, at which point, Patrick's standing there, and he looks like I have to explain to you that Patrick's African, right? Like he might be in America, but he's African, which sort of gives him a different perspective on the police as to a black man who's born in that country, like a black man who's born in England. It gives us a complete different perspective of how we're policed. And a lot of times, African men have not seen what we have seen. So you could see that Patrick was like, he was scared, he was intimidated, and he was just basically, he just looked really frightened. So at which point, the police officer has told him to get his license, asked him for his license, get your license. So there's somebody else in the car. Patrick had a passenger in the car. I don't know who it was, but he had a passenger in the car. So he's asked that person to get the license. And what it looks like that person couldn't find his license. So at which point, he looks like that he started to walk round to the other side of the car, to go and get the license himself. So this officer has said to him, "Stop." He said to him, "Stop." So he's grabbed hold of him. Right now, remember, right? Patrick's frightened because for us, we can see when a police officer wants to do us serious harm. That's just a fact of our life. That's how we're policed. That's just a fact of our life. So you could see, so you've got to understand from Patrick's point of view. Now he's got this guy grabbing hold of him. So Patrick, he's run off a little bit. He can't go in. It's not like he can go anywhere, right? His car's right there. He can't get anywhere. He can't do anything, right? So this police officer's chased after him and he's tackled him to the floor. Now they're on the floor. They're fighting on the floor, and then because when I first spoke about this on Friday, I'd only seen it right from the bystander's point of view, and I'd only seen the back end of the video, so I hadn't seen the front end from the police officer's body cam point of view. So that's what we're looking at now. We're looking at from the police officer's body cam point of view of what's happening. So they're on the floor, they're struggling, then they've got back up. Now the police officer's got hold of him from behind, and it looks like he's walking into his car. Right, I don't know. So it looks like that Patrick might have wanted to turn around to him and said to him, "What is going on here?" Because all the time Patrick's saying to him, "Okay, okay." All the time he said to him, "Okay, okay." So he's walking back to the car, and then another struggle was because what American police officers, when it comes down to us, they're very, very aggressive straight away. Yeah, and they're hands-on straight away. Yeah, and they're straight away with their stop resisting, because that makes it seem like you're resisting, even though you could have four of them on you at a time, and they'll still be shouting out "stop resistance," because it's just one of their terms that they use against us all the time. And if they're on their body cam and they're just saying "stop resisting," it makes it seem like you are really resisting this guy, right? And Patrick, for me, wasn't really resisting this guy. He just wanted to know why this guy was doing this to him. That's what he wanted to know. And so now the police officer, he's drawn his taser out, and they're probably less than a foot apart, and he's drawn his taser out. Right, and as he's going to point the taser at him, Patrick's grabbed hold of the taser. So now he's got the taser. And I think it must have been something like this, where he's got the taser. And the policeman's deployed the taser, but as you can see, the taser would have just gone straight past his hand and probably straight onto the floor, right? At which stage, the police officer's now saying to him, like, let go of the taser, let go of the taser, let go of the taser, right? So now Patrick, right, and the police officer have gone onto the ground, and Patrick's face down, and he's on the ground, and the police officer is saying to him, let go of the taser, let go of the taser, let go of the taser, right? And you can hear Patrick saying, oh, why are you doing this? Why, right? And then, as casually as you like, when I say as casually as like, I mean, just like going into a shop and buying a packet of cigarettes. Casual. Just going to your tap, if you're in America, I believe you call that the faucet, and just pouring yourself a glass of water and drinking that. Just as simple, when I say as simple as you like. This police officer's on top of him. He just puts his hand in his holster, takes out his gun and shoots him in the head. As if he was killing an animal. Just, you know, just... I can't say that I've seen a murder, right, that you can possibly say is worse than... I mean, this was just savage. Right? Listen, I know... We've seen these things, right? But this is, I believe, the most graphic that you can find. You know, George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin, or whatever his name is, right? He was murdered by him, and we all saw it. And this murder is, you know, I think it's just even more graphic. It's more horrendous, because this police officer had full control of the situation, because, you know, you can't shoot someone with a taser from the end that Patrick was holding it. It's impossible to shoot someone with a taser from that end. So this police officer had control of the situation. He had already called for backup. He'd called for backup. So he knew that backup was on the way. You know, so for him to just take out his gun and just murder this man in this fashion, because, you know, if he felt threatened by the taser, he could have just taken out his gun and shot him in the hand with the taser. I mean, that would have been it would have been a nasty thing to do, but a much more humane thing to do, rather than just executing another human being like that. And this police officer, I believe, was not aware that someone was filming this, from another angle. You know, because after he murdered Patrick, he's got up and he's seen that person, and he's told that person to go away, shouted something at that person. But obviously that person has posted a video on social media. So everything for this police officer is caught on camera, because, you know, for this police officer, you know, his body cam at one stage had been switched off. So how it was switched off, I don't know. But, you know, apparently it was switched off in the struggle. But you'd think, after watching that video, that the chief would have immediately placed him under arrest for murder, because what you've seen play out there is an out and out murder. Now, what you've got to understand here about being a black man and being stopped by the police is, every encounter for us being stopped by the police can be the day our life ends. We all know that. We are fully aware of that. If we meet the wrong cop, the wrong police officer, our life can be taken by somebody who has the legal right to do it. So we have got that in the back of our mind, because that is the way how we're policed. So where this police officer has confronted Patrick in the first place, you know, it's very simple. You know, okay, he's out the car. You didn't want him out the car, but he's out the car. And the reason why Patrick's probably got out the car is because, you know, it's easy for police officers to shoot you while you're sat in your car. They'll tell you to go for your they'll tell you to get your license. You'll move and they'll shoot you. And we've seen that happen on numerous occasions. We've seen that, and that's the reason why, for Patrick, he would have believed it would be safer for him to get out of the car and find out what's going on, because we're in the car. Right? Especially when you've got a police officer who you can see wants to do you some serious harm. So that's probably the reason why Patrick got out of the car in the first place. At which stage, if the police officer was a decent officer, he would have just said to him, "Look, let's stand on the sidewalk. If you're in Britain, that's the pavement. Let's just stand on the sidewalk and have a conversation about your tags, because this is what this was all over. It's all over tags. If you're in England, that would be number plates. So that's what they wanted to have a word about was the tags. So that would have been the best thing to do. Just take him on the side of the road and just speak about, and ask him to see his license, and that's what any decent police officer would have done at that stage. And then, away you go. But this police officer, he's decided that no, black people are not policed like that. We don't police black people in the same way we police white people. We police black people like animals. We want to make sure that policing has always kept up on black people. We want to make sure that they know their place in society, and their place is as of a third-class citizen, which we can murder at any stage when we want. And we want to make sure that black people stay in that position. So that's what this police officer's got in his mind. That's what he's got in his mind. So this police officer, he's already got intentions of doing this man serious harm, because in the first place, when I told you to get back in the car, how dare you dirty nigger, not get back in that fucking car? Because that's what's going through that policeman's mind. How dare you? Who the fuck do you think you are? Get back in the car. That's what's going through his mind. Right? So now it doesn't matter whatever else happens now. This guy, right, is going to batter him just for that alone. That's what he's going to batter him for, because this is an uppity nigger, and this guy's going to put him in his place, and he's going to make sure he puts him in his place. So you see, that's how we're policed. I keep telling you this. This is unfortunate. That's the way we're policed. So now you see, obviously, when you're policed in that fashion, that's going to have a major effect on how we are when we're challenged by police officers. Right? Now, we've seen situations in America where you've had 4 or 5 or 6 police officers on trial because of a police stop, and a black man has ended up dead. And they'll go to court and they'll say, yes, we was frightened for our life. And there'll be video. I mean, there'll be video of it. They'll say, yes, we was frightened for our life because we are a weak and inferior race to black people. So one black man against 6 white trained armed police officers is so violent that we have problems controlling them. So we had to kill them because we was frightened for our life. Yes, there was 6 of us. There was 4 of us, 5 of us, or 6 of us, all with guns, and the person was face down on the floor. And but he went for one of the officer's guns, so we had to shoot him because we were scared. Yes, we was on top of him, but he's a black man. He's obviously dangerous, so we were scared. But they've been able to get away with that in the courts in America, especially in America. I mean, even in Great Britain, where I live, they've been able to get away with that. And you have to wonder how you can actually find 12 jury members, because that's what you've got to do. You've got to find 12 jury members that the police officer's defence can look and say, yeah, these guys look like they think in the way we do. So now you've got to find 12 jury members that will look at that case and say, yeah, yes, we can see why you had to kill that black man. When there's 4 of yous and there's 1 of him, and you know, and there was a struggle and he was on the floor, we can understand. A jury could say, we can understand why you would kill him. We can fully understand that and think, well, so, because remember the judge is there as well. At any stage in a trial, a judge could just say, listen, you know what, this is just absolute nonsense. This is a load of nonsense. I'm going to direct the jury to find these people guilty. Because, you know, because the judge could just say, unless you're saying to us, right, that we are a weak and feeble race of people, that 4 trained police officers with guns cannot control 1 black man who they've got on the floor, then, you know, I'm going to stop this case. I'm going to stop this trial, and I'm going to ask the jury to find this man, to find these men guilty. So the judge has got every opportunity to do that. But you know, so you have the judge, and you've got these jury members, and they give these police officers a not guilty, and there's 4 of them there. They've murdered a black man, and you think, well, so what you're saying secretly is that you are so scared of us and you feel so weak and inferior to us that a jury can look and say, yeah, you can look at something that you know that any fool would know is an out and out murder, and you can say, oh no, oh yeah, that's definitely murder. That's definitely not murder. You know, the black guy, he looked like he had super strength, and he could look like he could throw those 4 police officers off his back, take one of their guns, and then shoot all 4 of them. So that's what they're saying. You know, so that's what we're facing, right? You know, it's, you know, in England, you know, we've had, like, you know, the murder of Mark Duggan, for example. Didn't have a gun on him. When the police shot him dead, he didn't have a gun on him in this country. But still, they could find a jury that said, even though he didn't have a gun on him, the police lawfully shot him. You say, what? Yeah, that's what they said. And then the police made up a lot of lies about him. And I can tell you, the police lie about. You know, we're in Britain. We're very lucky because our police officers, you know, our standard police officers don't carry guns. It's only our specialist police officers who carry guns. And you know, obviously, if you get a set of racist police officers like, unfortunately, Mark Duggan did, then they're just going to murder you because they do it. This is what they do. So, and then, you know, I could take you over to another case of young Rashan Charles, who was murdered by police in Hackney, Stoke Newington, somewhere like that. Right, because he was challenged by a police officer, and he's gone into a shop, and the police officer said that he's put something in his mouth. Right, so instead of the police officer just saying, okay, you've swallowed something, fair enough, handcuff him, take him outside, wait for a van to come, and say, right, what we're going to do is you are going to stay in the police station until that passes. That's what they'll do to white people. But no, this police officer decided he was going to choke the fuck out of this kid, right, and murder him in this shop. Just murder him, just like that. So, and now that police officer, I'm sure he's still on because I haven't heard anything else about that case. And every so often, yeah, I send the Met a tweet about that, right? And they've never once replied to me. Never once have they replied to me. But I send them a tweet about that on a regular basis. And you know, but so we're just lucky that our police officers in this country don't carry guns, because if they did, right, there'd be a lot more murders of black men by police officers. There'd be one hell of a lot more. You know, that said, I can tell you about you know stuff that's happened to me. Right, you know, look, when I was 17, I was standing on the corner of my mum and dad's road, and a police car pulled up. And about 3 police officers jumped out and they grabbed me and threw me in the back of the car and took me to the police station. and they said, "Oh, you were standing there selling drugs." I was like, standing on my mum and dad's road, right? Now, granted to them, right, just round the corner, right, there was a place where people could go and buy weed, right? So you got to imagine this was like, this was back in the day, right? So there was a place around there. So, and it wasn't, people was, there was a lot with the police. There was a lot more tension between police and weed in them days. So we got to the police station now. Strip searched, right? After I've done that, gone back to the sergeant, because obviously I haven't got anything on me. I'm not standing there drug dealing. I haven't got anything on me. So these police officers, have produced a spliff right from nowhere. These police officers, and said he was smoking this. Now, when you looked at this spliff, the spliff looked like it looked like it had been rolled by someone who had never smoked weed but believed what a spliff should look like. Right. So in the end, it was them. They saying that I was doing that. I said this, and they are lying because they're racist arseholes. So with that, right, I was just basically thrown at the police station. Right, but I'll tell you another story. Right, because I just want to explain to you. Right, I want you to see what level of racism as black people that we have to go through. Right, back in the late 90s, going into the early 2000s, I was a newsagent and I had 3 shops, right? And in one of my shops that was in Barkingside, right, there was I had a young white guy working for me, and he was about 19 at the time, right? And this shop was on a high street, and there was a load of kids who used to hang outside there, and they was between 15 and 18 years old, and I used to work in my other shop that was just like about 3 or 4 minutes away, just around the corner, just driving, right, just around the corner, literally, right. So I was around there, and I'd closed that shop at this because it was a bit later in the night, and that shop, the one on the high street, used to open till late. Used to open till about 10 o'clock. So must be about 7:30. I've got a call from the guy who works in his name's John. So I've got a call from him at my other shop to say to me, listen, I've just been beaten up by these boys, right? So I've got close to him, and I've gone round to go and see him, and so I'm speaking to him now, and he's blooded, right? So I'm like, all right, let's go around, because I've got the medical box at the other shop. So driving around, and we've seen them, and then he's going to be, look, that's them there, right? So now, right, so we stopped the car, and I've got out, right, and we've gone over to them, and then we've basically been confronted, right, and one of them's drawn out a baseball bat, right, so, and he swung it, right, at me, right, and I'm like, this kid is swinging a baseball bat at me, right, so I've just taken the swing, right, I've taken the bat and give him a little dig with the baseball bat, and John is beating up one of them, right, and now it's all over, and they've run off. And so we've got back in the car, and we've gone to the shop, and I've patched them up and that. So a few days have gone past, or about a week or so. The police have got in touch, and they said, you need to come into the police station. You and John need to come into the police station. So we've all gone to the police station, and the police was just like, you know something, this is a load of bullshit. What we're going to do is we're going to charge all of you with a fray. So everybody was charged with a fray. All of us was charged with a fray. So it's like, okay, fair enough. So I'm like, well, you've seen the situation, what's happened. I mean, he's, because, obviously John's like, he's more or less like some of these guys' age. So there's going to be a lot of tension between them. Do you know what I mean? Because they're all the same age at that time. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, what's happened now, right, is we've all been charged with a fray. So then between the police and the CPS, these guys have gone to their first court date, and John has gone, because I was older than them, so my case had come over slightly different, right? So they've all gone, because they was in the juvenile court. That's what it was. They was in the juvenile court, right? So what's happened is, between the police and the prosecution, they have dropped the case, right, on 8 people. Remember, because there's 7 of them and there's 2 of us, so there's 9 people involved, and they've dropped the case on 8 people, Right now, we've got to understand, yeah, that there was only one black person involved. There was 9 people, one black person involved. Right? So drop the case on 8 people, including right my co-defendant, which was John, the guy who worked for me. So including John, because he's white as well. Drop the case right, on 8 people. Only one of us faced a full Crown Court trial. Who do you think that was? Only the black man faced a full Crown Court trial in Snaresbrook Crown Court, right? And I've got the record, right, of having the fastest ever acquittal, right, after a full jury trial that lasted for 4 days. And the jury took less than 5 minutes to find me innocent. Right, so what you've got to understand, right, is from because I've done jury service. So from the jury, you've got to all get up, walk back into the jury room, right? All sit down, because remember they've got 2 officers taking them through. All sit down. Officers then got to secure the room. Right? Then they have the vote. So they've got to do all of that, right? And in less than 5 minutes, right, we was called back into the court, right, for me to be found not guilty. So you've got to understand, right, in that kind of case, right, the jury must have looked and thought, well, this man has absolutely no reason for being here. What reason have they got for having him here, right? If a jury can find you not guilty in less than 5 minutes after doing all the stuff that I explained to you they've got to do, right? Because it's not all of that and 5 minutes. It's all of that, right? And right, come up with a not guilty in that short space of time. Right, me and my barrister didn't even get a chance to get to the canteen. We was on our way to the canteen. We didn't even get a chance to get there. So that what I'm trying to explain to you, yeah, that is what it is like for black people, in where we're living in the West. Right, everything they set everything against us, no matter what it is, they set it against us. Right, and the murder of Patrick has just I challenge anybody to look at that and tell me that it's just not an out and out murder. And I put it down for 1st degree murder, but I know that for 1st degree, you've got to there's got to be that intent, but we should have a 2nd degree murder charge on this, because it's one of the just most disgusting and horrific murders, right, that you can ever see. For a police officer to just shoot someone in the back of the head, right, it's just a crime that you just can't imagine. What you've got to understand, right, coming from a black man's point of view, your robber, your street mugger, someone who tries to mug you or rob you on the streets, right, that can be our police officer. That's what, for us, we are in the same type of fight as someone who is trying to stab us up and murder us on the street, as an encounter that we have with a police officer. For us, it's the same thing. For white people, for Caucasians, yeah, you never have to come across this. You're very, as a race of people, you're very lucky in this respect, because you never have to come across this, because you're never ever going to find 4 black police officers holding down a white man, right, and shooting them dead. You're never going to see that, ever. Okay, you'll never ever see that. So I don't understand how anybody, can look at this murder of, this one police officer doing this to a man that he's basically got control of on the floor. Because if the casual nature that he took his gun out and murdered Patrick was just savage. It's just like he was dispatching an animal. That's what it was like. And I was just, when I tell you, just horrified, absolutely just horrified. And I really do hope that that his chief, because I'm going to be sending his chief this video, I really do hope that his chief takes it serious, and and the local the local prosecution service take this as serious an incident as it is, because you can't have police officers shooting people in the back of the head when they've got full control of a situation. It was a horrific murder, and that's what it should go down as, an horrific murder. Anyway, guys, this is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you. I would really appreciate all of your comments below. Thank you so much for your time.